exhibitors, manufacturers, innovators have an opportunity to connect with the goals, the strategies of the aviation world with respect to security, facilitation, and making air travel enjoyable for the billions of passengers around the world. We start off our presentations this morning with Veridos, and we've had the opportunity and the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Silke Bachstedt earlier. She is the head of product management at Veridos, and we're very much looking forward to, I don't know if we can call it the sequel, the expansion, the evolution of, but please welcome Silke.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome so much to this early Sky Talk today. We are very proud to present and to give you an overview in the new Moroccan border control system, which now is fully in operation. Therefore, we are very happy together with you to join you on a journey to Morocco for the next 20 minutes. This talk is structured in two parts. In the first part, I would like to give you an overview of Morocco and the challenges leads into the need of a new border control system. In the second part, you can see the derived solution and also get an overview on the implementation of a flexible border control system covering the need of the Morocco. I would like to take also the opportunity to thank our Moroccan customer, the DGSN, the Directorate for National Security, for the excellent cooperation and the professionality during the entire project. So, just look southeast. What are your thoughts when you think of Morocco? Geographically, Morocco is characterized by rugged mountains, interior, large tracts of desert, and a lengthy coastline along the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. In 2017, Morocco had roughly 36 million citizens. Economic growth continuously is increasing since 2000, continuously, and in 2017 they had a growth rate since more than 4%. The industry recorded the largest and highest growth are tourism, telecom, and information technology and textile. So this also gives us a framework where are the needs for the new Morocco border control system. We have a lot of visitors, so we have 20 million visitors in 2017, and we really see a much high-tech orientation inside this country. The geographical characteristics and this business fields also makes quite obvious what we need to do inside the new border control system. So the air traffic in Morocco has increased by 13% in the first half of 2018. And this brings you to the need that really it's an increase, and for sure the traveler's identity needs to be verified by the new border control system. Geographical characteristics we already have seen, and therefore we see the needs for the new system, which needs to be faster. For sure, the resources are limited, more secure, and quite state-of-the-art. Because with the continuous increase of tourism, the border control system and its processes needs to be both secure and convenience. Also, what is a quite obvious requirement, Morocco has also the need really to be much more secure because we are following a Schengen border. You can imagine that this really was an infrastructural mega project. In a nutshell, the system comprises a central system, disaster recovery system, and regional servers. Stationary border control post with roughly 1,200 workstations, and 140 mobile border control sets. And for sure, we need to cover all the various border posts comprising airports, seaports, and land borders. The solution was implemented by using a Veridos border control solution based on the Verigo platform. And this platform offered a very flexible configuration, an implementation of specific business processes, which is usually quite important for our customers, and offers also various implementations of additional backend systems. So what you see is that this solution offers an inspection part by manual border control, automatic border control, and also mobile border control stations, is supervision on the local level, just on the specific border post level, and then also management countrywide, really to have an overview what happens with the system. Quite important is, let's say, the system architecture, and I just want to give you a very high-level overview how a system architecture could look like to ensure also utmost availability of the system, because for sure, for a border control system, you need to have a 24/7 availability. So quite important is a central system hosting all the important travelers' data. We already have seen a connection to various databases. So an entry-exit management database, stop list database, Interpol database, and so on. You can think of much more external databases which are needed and also required for the specific country to ensure that only allowed travelers will enter the country, and people who are on certain blacklists are stopped from entering. Quite important is the data replication towards the various border control locations. So you can imagine a border control system usually has the classical components like a primary inspection stations where you as a traveler usually go to and get checked with your travel documents. Then for some suspects or some questionable travelers, you have the secondary inspection where you go to for additional checks, and for sure you have a back office station comprising all the back-end topics which needs to be covered inside a country. And therefore, for sure, you can imagine that this border control locations, they are replicated, and as you heard already, we have roughly 1,200 stations in Morocco. And I would also introduce you a little bit towards our data replication methods, because this is a quite intensive data replication required, because countrywide all traveler information needs to be available within 15 minutes when they occur in the system. Okay, then I come now a little bit more to the border control processes. So verification is also a major part as well. As the share of electronic travel documents, electronic passport is increasing significantly, also here the verification must be made in a proper manner to ensure that the people with the right identity can be checked at the border post. So therefore, we are here at the manual inspection. The manual inspection time is significantly before a minute per passenger, and the border guards get supported by an automatic checking system by the Visotech document reader, which helps to provide an information on the optical and the electrical components of a passport, and it is really ranked as one of the top EU verification tool by also by the Frontex. And this reading of the document, optical and electrically, is roughly in the range of 9 seconds. Okay, now we have seen the classical border control process. Also quite important, as you have seen, that the Moroccan tourism is increasing drastically. Also here we work on the need of a automatic border control. So also the installation of e-gates have been provided to Morocco, and here a high-speed immigration process will be obtained. Okay, therefore I would like to close to show you that we bring really with this project the benefits towards Morocco by an improved passenger flow, by a more secure border and the border control system, and providing a future-proof system. So this system will be extended in 2019 as well. So we are really looking forward here to have more challenges and have a really high secure solution for the entire country. Thank you very much.
That's it?
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Thank you. Terrific.
Merci.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you very much, Silke. And of course, we invite you to visit the Veridos booth for much more information on this exciting project and other innovations from Veridos. We now move on to X-Infotech, and our speaker for this presentation will be Ksenia Egorova. She is with the Marketing and Communications section. So, Ksenia, welcome to the stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. Thank you very much for ICAO for having me here. And my name is Ksenia. I work for a wonderful company, X-Infotech. We provide software solutions for identity management and biometric verifications. And we are based in Riga, in Latvia, in small country in Northern Europe. Today I would like to elaborate a little bit on identity digitalizations from the perspective of how border control officers and common travelers embrace it and use it. Yesterday, the honored speakers from the first panel have already talked much about the importance of seamless traveling, and starting from the very beginning of the trip, from the booking of the ticket. However, I'm confident that a hassle may occur even earlier, much more earlier than booking a ticket and starting the trip, even on the stage of the planning the trip and preparation for the trip. So aiming to higher levels of security, our industry faces multiple challenges, of course. And as service and solutions and equipment providers, we do our best to persuade governments, who are actually our customers and decision makers, to implement effective and powerful electronic systems and e-government systems. Of course, the decision-making process is very complex and time-consuming, and there are many stages and various arguments to build an effective eID system and e-government infrastructure. So when it comes to implementing a new eID system in a country, document security is crucial, of course. And we have to be always one step ahead of any type of fraud, of any type of counterfeit and identity theft. However, no matter how persuasive we might be with our customers, who are actually governments, our customers often feel uncertain when signing up for a new project. So where does this uncertainty come from? Besides various issues of budgeting, economical and political situation in a country, there is a lot to do with knowledge sharing, with understanding how technology really works, And there are some psychological and social factors involved. Government people, the decision makers, are still people, and in many cases they don't understand how technology works, and many of them are expecting the Big Brother trend to come. And so the recent popular movies, like for example the recent film Upgrade, they help to evolve to create those fears even more. Imagine that one day this ultimate technology gets hacked or just goes down, and what will happen next to our personal and sensitive data? Many people fear that. And we, together with you as a professional community, we should educate people, tell them more about the technology, about all processes and procedures involved, just to fight those fears and to help them understand. Basically, I would like to look more at our very end customers today, people who verify identities like passport control officers, and people who claim their identities like common travelers. How do we know that our passport control officers working in kiosks are happy? Do they understand the system, or do they need to understand the system? Is it really necessary for them? And to what extent they trust it? How does all these digitalized system help them to fulfill their KPIs, to make their work less human error? So, of course, their experience, the experience of passport control officers can be both positive and negative. And to continue the cycle of the family stories started yesterday, I would like to tell a quick story of my life. Once I was traveling with my kids. They are 14 and 9 years old. And we were crossing the border between Lithuania and Russia. We were heading to Kaliningrad, entering the Russian territory. So we are citizens of Russia. So every time I cross the border with my kids, I need to present their paper birth certificates, their electronic passports, and a notary authorization given by their dad that I'm allowed to take them traveling abroad. So the biometric passports issued for traveling in Russia are issued for 10 years, even for small babies. So during enrollment, only a picture is collected, actually. So no fingerprints or signature is recorded on the chip for my kids. So imagine my 9-year-old child with a passport photo of a 1-year-old baby. Of course, the passport control officer conducts only a visual check. So how can he be sure that he does no error? So this is a problem not only for the industry, but for people who verify identities, who work with all these systems. And so we need to think more about their performance, of course, to help them. And of course, passport control officers are not the only ones of concern. The same thing goes for the regular citizens, travelers, tourists, and immigrants. Yesterday, for example, IATA presented a very interesting statistics of how travelers' experience is measured in airports. However, as a traveler, I would like to contribute to this analysis a little bit and make one step aside of the airport environment. And to illustrate my traveler's experience, let me tell you another quick story of mine. So, as I previously said, I'm a citizen of Russia. So, I have 2 passports. One passport is paper-based, is mandatory, and is called internal. So, this passport serves for my everyday life in Russia and is not valid for traveling abroad. The other passport is biometric, is not obligatory, and is issued for traveling abroad. So it carries an electronic chip, it's full of security features, and it's a true biometric document. So to go to Canada to participate in this ICAO symposium, I had to make a Canadian visa. To apply for a Canadian visa, the first thing I had to do is to find the nearest Canadian visa center, which in my case happened to be 700 kilometers away. I had to attend and present myself personally because my biometrics got collected. And besides, I had to present a thick pile of printed out supporting documents. So then my passport was retrieved. I gave it away for 3 weeks because 2 weeks approximately serve for visa processing and a few more days for passport delivery. So for 3 weeks I was left without any identity document. Like document-less and identity-less. The funny thing is that being a citizen of Russia and working for a Latvian company, I live in Germany. So I have a temporary residence permit in Germany, which actually is a sticker in my passport, which is away for 3 weeks. And I have a permanent residence permit in Latvia, which actually is an electronic identity document, is a polycarbonate card, which serves as an identity document within Latvia, but doesn't serve as a travel document outside Latvia. So I can travel with this card only presenting my passport, which is away. So the problem for me as a traveler is that I have a huge pile of different kinds of identity documents, various types, and still I can't travel and I can't move away for 3 weeks. So I have to sacrifice, in some cases, my vacations or business trips. So the problem is that me as a traveler, I have to know in advance all kinds of possible situations, risks, where and how I need to present the document, in which case, and in which case I don't. So in a nutshell, on one hand, security of a document and counter-terrorism measures are still the top priorities, no matter what. On the other hand, keeping the technologies simple and sharing knowledge with people is critical these days and will remain critical, of course. And of course, we as an industry, we need to understand that once we make passport control officers and common travelers happy, then everyone will be happy. And as a possible solution to this problem, we theoretically, all together with you, could create a one integrated international environment for sharing our knowledge with people who work and deal with identities every day. So this could be an environment where we can explain what is behind the electronic documents, what do they serve for, and in simple words and in an understandable way. So summing up, the industry needs to pay more attention to our end customers and users, not only about API or PNR or technological issues we should talk about, but about people as well, because we are people. We create the outstanding and smart solutions, but all these technological solutions still work for people. So as soon as we start focusing more on people, travelers, officers, and decision makers, so we'll make them happy and we will create more inclusive environment globally. Thank you.
And now comes the time where we have a slight technical adjustment to make, but this one won't take long. Promise. Thank you. See, that wasn't too long after all. Our next speaker is from SICPA. They have their booth just outside here like all the others. The person making the presentation is, like many of the presenters this week, is an old friend of the symposium, Laurent Lou. He is the project manager at SICPA, and we're very much looking forward to your presentation, Laurent.
So, good morning. Today I'd like to come back to the evidence of identity that is a very important topic that has been discussed yesterday, and where you have now specifically more, how do you prove that you are who you say you are? Today, more and more in the industry, you have to prove who you say you are in the digital world, and you have more and more transactions that are going online. So, specifically in the travel industry, you have, for example, in the self-enrollment process, when you want to get your e-visa, your pre-clearance, or even booking a flight, you have to prove who you say you are in the digital world. And you have as well the things where you need to share different credentials that you collect, for example, from your bank or from other stakeholders, to get further work permits and different travel authorizations. So the question here is then you have different stakeholders in the digital world that are strategically wanting to get to become the standard of identity in the digital world. So, of course, we think about Facebook, Google. Each time you want to log on a new service, you get the question, do you want to log on with your Google account, etc. So for them, it's important to become the standard by default, right? You have telecom operators today that also try to monetize the identity of your phone, and also you have banks, Visa. So which one of those standards will become really the digital part? And so also how or who would you trust to guarantee your identity here? And we believe that governments have a clear role to play in the digital identity. Likewise, today and in the past, governments have very well secured the travel documents, right? With passports, with identity cards. We believe that government should have exactly the same role in the digital world. However, the requirements are slightly different, right? So here I just name a few here to make the distinction of what we have currently with the travel document and what is really required in the digital world. So starting with the fact that it should be global and interoperable, meaning that different stakeholders should be able to use that in different contexts, right? It should be universal, meaning that it should apply for your own citizen, but also for the visitors. So the same system should be applicable in different use cases. It should have no physical support nor interfaces, meaning that you don't need each time to take your passport in order to log in the digital world. You should have something that is directly usable on your phone. Very important topic is should preserve the privacy of people, because we all know that the data is now important, and we don't want to share data with we want to have control as a citizen over what we share. And last but not least, the credentials that we receive from various stakeholders, we want to be able to share them with other stakeholders in a secure manner. So this is where we come with the concept of self-sovereign identity. So this is a concept that is emerging now, and that we think is important for government to look at it as an opportunity, and also a way to become the foundational source of digital identity. So the importance is here is to say that the government can provide some pieces, some evidence of identity in the digital world that can be used by the different operators like Facebook or banks or etc. to provide you new services, but as well for other type of stakeholders like hotels, car rental, and all this is really managed predominantly by the citizen himself in his wallet, where he can select to which extent he wants to share data or not. So the benefits of this are, you have benefits for the government, for commercial actors, and for citizens. And we spoke that yesterday as well. I think we should have in mind those three components, and always take as well the citizen, as also explained just previously. It's very important, right? So for the government, it's of course important to be able to control the different transactions that are going on online, to use that for their own citizens, for example, to collect e-government services, and for visitors that can use the system exactly the same for entry-exits, and to use it further down in the post-clearance process for commercial services. For the commercial actors, it's important to rely on a high level of assessment done by the government. So, for example, if you have people coming in, they are assessed at the border, and they receive a credential, and this credential can then be used further down by economic actors that are not the best trained to verify the authenticity of documents and other travel documents. And of course, for citizens, we should be able to facilitate all the enrollment, the pre-registration process, and to have really user-friendly interfaces, and mostly important, of course, while preserving their privacy. So this is just a schematic of what we present on our booth, where you have the ID issuer. It can be either for their own citizen, so it's a government for their own citizen, or for visitor. They provide a credential here in the form of 2D barcodes that is containing biographic elements, biometry, credentials, and identifiers that all can be then either printed directly in the document or have the similar version on the mobile. This can then further lead to different services and collect further credentials. Some two words about SICPA. So SICPA is well known for banknotes, securing banknotes and travel documents. So most of the banknotes and travel and passports and ID cards have ink elements, secure elements from SICPA. And we are listing it here very long. So as you see, since 1927. So a long history of securing documents. We have also some track and trace business where we link the material and digital for excise taxes. And now we really want to go further in the digital identity because we think this is a fundamental part of trust and which will unlock the digital economy. And wherever trust is needed, we as SICPA want to contribute. So here, so as a summary, we would like to encourage governments now to embrace and lead the definition of digital ID. So this means that evaluating what are the new opportunities in this world to be able to unlock this digital economy and provide new services, facilitating the travels and the different visitors processes in order to grab those new opportunities. So thank you for your attention.
Laurent is tall, so I'll have to bring this back down a bit. Okay, we move on. We're making good as far as time is concerned. And the next presentation is from Mühlbauer, and we have the pleasure of having with us again Dr. Mike Beckman. He is business analyst and security consultant with Mühlbauer. So, Mike, please, floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome from our side too. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks to ICAO for the invitation and to give us the opportunity to speak here about a complete new and privacy-friendly approach of traveling. Before I dig into details, give me the chance to review it a bit. How was flying in the beginnings? I found during my preparation, I found a video, a commercial from American Airlines from 1933, and it showed up it was as easy as taxi driving. You just arrived at the airport, you stepped in, and that's it. And our talk is about how we could achieve this goal in our world today. So to say, I want to take you back to the future. Okay, before we go to our trip, the DeLorean already is parked outside. I want to review a little bit the situation now. I don't want to explain the slide in detail, just a few words. You have a lot of documents, you have ID card to present, you have your booking, you have boarding pass, you have baggage tag. So you have to deal with all these data. And following the IATA recommendation, you have even more touch points. So these touch points have to be somehow addressed. On the other hand, saying this, we have an increased passenger volume. IATA had a forecast for the next 20 years of about doubling the passenger figures. So this is quite challenging. We see that the installation of automated border control solutions can be an option here, but it's still limited. We have already first airports using it, and it's promising. However, they all lack one major problem or one major feature. It's not very privacy friendly. They all collect data from the passenger, they store it in a central database, and even worse, currently we install more and more video surveillance and face recognition systems, so it gets a privacy nightmare. You may have heard about with May 2018 in the European Union we have a new law about this general data protection regulation. So we see it as a new calendar in the world. The GDPR really changed the approach of how to manage data, personal data, and how to deal with it. So we are here to present this more privacy-friendly approach. Who is we? We are a consortium of high-tech companies and research institutions. We are mainly based in Germany. NXP is, for instance, one of the partners in Hamburg University. So our main goal is to create a trustworthy, digitally and privacy-friendly consolidated identity in the hands of a passenger. How we do it is quite easy. We just use the mobile devices we already carry to extract all the data we need and to give the passenger the chance to disclose on demand, on purpose and on permission. This is privacy by design. How it works, we have heard yesterday that the electronic machine-readable travel document is a really nice trust anchor. The evidence of identity presentation showed it quite well, and this is why we also belonging to this eMRTD. We use it as a data source. We read it out via NFC. We perform a face recognition locally on the device to bind the document, the device, and the person together to have a consolidated identity. And then you can step by step add further data pieces like your booking, like your hotel reservation, like your train ticket. Last but not least, and that's why NXP is on board, we use cryptography to convert it from just a simple storage into a trusted storage. We use a special part of a chip to keep it as secret as possible. We see three major steps to introduce this system. The first step is to convince a passenger to use the app. This is already beneficial for the passenger. He has only one device to carry. We want to convince the airport to participate so the passenger can use it during the whole process. And last but not least, we see a strong demand, and we have heard it here with a mobile ID, to have it also in the government's hands. This could really speed up the process of traveling. Let's dig into the details for the passenger first. It's quite simple. The app becomes something like a wallet. You store your personal data inside this wallet. You are using the simple sharing mechanisms like we already use to push data into this wallet. There's an option to use it as a mobile ID, of course, but first of all, you just use it as a wallet, and you use the interfaces as usual. You show your QR code to the airline, you show your photo, you show some other documents. The benefit is limited, of course, but it's convenient, it's comfortable, it's centrally stored, and it's secure. If we have passenger and airline on board, it becomes better. The wallet becomes a real travel token. The token can be used for traveling between the airlines, between the passenger. So it's a secure storage, and again, we are using nothing new, the same mechanisms as we already had in the past. If we have all three parties on board, then it becomes really nice. It becomes a full-featured PAX token, we call it. The full-featured PAX token is a secure storage. The user uses it in his own hands. He has the strong control about it. He decides about disclosure, to whom, what, how long. The mobile ID, as a trust anchor from the government, can act as a ID document without any media breach, and the benefits are really visible. It's the high level of trust because the government is on board, and we have a highest value for all stakeholders. Let's spend a few more minutes on benefits, because benefits are really important, and finally it's about costs and efficiency. From the benefits point of view, from the passenger, I already told you, this is a centrally secure and privacy-friendly storage. So from the passenger's perspective, this is the way where the privacy is respected, and you are really able to deal with the data sharing on a new level. From the airport perspective, it becomes even better. You have a low investment because you can introduce these systems step by step. It's not necessarily required to have a huge server rack with all the data inside, with all the databases. It's because of its decentralized approach, it's more low-level investment required, and last but not least, it's really privacy respecting because you as a passenger are able to decide about your disclosure. Enough theory, now let's step into the app itself. The app you see in the middle of the start screen, it's our PAX token application. Inside this application you have a few secure storages. It looks like folders, but it's built on secure storage areas where you have different kinds of data inside. And you as a passenger decide to whom to disclose what, and we added here a possibility to also define a time frame. This is privacy friendly and user friendly in the same time, because here we avoid these boring questions all the time. Can I get your location? Can I get your location? So you decide, I'm in the airport 2 hours, so I'm sharing my location the next 2 hours with the airline. From a vendor's perspective, it looks quite similar. The vendor, the airline, the airport, the government just pushes a request for disclosure. This request can be answered by the passenger. He sends the requested data, and that's it. So the fast lane is open and you can proceed. If not, then it's also no problem, because there's the long queue where you have to wait until it's your turn to proceed. So it's a beneficial situation for both of the stakeholders. If the data is disclosed, you get a notification and you see the red bubble now. So you have a message. It's like in the social networking area, it's common use and nothing new. The same way, the airline can also push messages to the passenger about gate changes, about last call, about guidance to the gate, for instance, and here we come into a complete new area, offers for some lounge access or duty-free offers or whatever. From the government perspective, our system turns the eMRTD into a real mobile ID. We have an online and offline verification process. The passenger gets a request from the government about the disclosure of the ID information, so the government can perform a risk assessment beforehand. This eMRTD turns into a mobile ID. We have heard from SICPA that this is a good and trustworthy approach. Face recognition helps here to bind the device and the passenger, and the government does not need large space. You can focus on hotspots, you can focus on the suspects, and the major passenger flow is untouched. What we do next? The next steps we have in mind are research. We will implement new partners in our system. Therefore, we have to implement the IATA, Open Air API. This is on our roadmap. We do research on trustworthiness to implement some kind of a reputation schema to increase the reputation of the token holder based on the usage of this token. And if you are interested, I can invite you into our booth at 25. It's on this floor around the corner. Let me just summarize. We enable all stakeholders to improve and streamline the processes. We are sure that this can also increase the satisfaction of a passenger and the interoperability between the system, and it's legally compliant because it's privacy friendly and uses the decentralized privacy by design principle. Additionally, it's really easy to extend it for new partners or applications and services. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in our booth 25. Thank you.
Thank you so much, especially about that advertising from American Airlines. Where did you see that on YouTube? Thank you very much, Mike. I was really interested about that advertisement from American Airlines about taking a plane is like taking the taxi. So I asked Mike, where did you see that? It's on YouTube, so I suppose we can all view that and chuckle a bit. Back to the future. Our next presentation from HID Global, it will be made by Rob Haslam. He is the VP of Global Sales for Citizen Identity Solutions. So Rob, the floor is yours. Welcome back.
Morning, everyone. Excuse my voice, I'm recovering from a head cold. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what I think and what we believe is a revolution coming to the world of travel documents. As you consider this phrase, the title of my presentation will, of course, be a bit of a giveaway here. I am, of course, referring to the smartphone. It's amazing, it really is amazing to me how many of the presentations here, I've been coming to ICAO for many, many years, how many of these presentations are now focused on mobile applications. Incredible for me to see. Only a few years ago, the content was all about inks, paper, holograms, physical security features. It's a real change. So the icons behind me show a number of ways in which mobile phones have changed our lives, but it could also be a list of things that we used to carry in our bag, from books to maps to CDs to cameras, things that have migrated to these little slabs of metal and plastic we carry in our pockets. It's also a reflection of how an unimagined world of convenience has also been put in the palm of our hands, where you once have maybe gone to a library to find out the population of Brazil. Now what do? You just Google it on the train, right? So for those people who actually still use their phones to talk to people, imagine that. You know, some of us now would never imagine going into a phone booth on the street, unless we're superheroes, of course. So in a world where we can buy a plane ticket from our phone, pay for our coffee with it, you name it, our ID documents are arguably the last thing in that bag of stuff we used to carry yet to migrate to the phone. And by the way, the population of Brazil is 209.3 million. I Googled it just before I came up here on my phone. It's probably changed already since then. So what about identity on the phone? Well, things are changing. There are pilot projects for phone-based identity mushrooming all over the world. This is not a complete map of all of those. This just shows a few of them. A lot of them you can see are in North America. And indeed, the first live iteration, the first live project of a driving license on a phone has happened now in Louisiana. The mobile story has been led by driving licenses, I think for a number of reasons. But if I had to put forward one principal reason, I would say that it's predominantly because in the US you don't have a national ID, and of course your driver's license is the document you use to prove identity in all sorts of situations. So that's led a lot of activity in North America. But mobile ID isn't just about driving licenses. So what about passports? Well, today you're not likely to get very far presenting your passport on your phone at a border to an immigration officer. That doesn't mean things aren't happening. Here at ICAO, the working group is developing policies which will eventually evolve into standards to make the mobile passport an interoperable reality. But at the individual country level, things are already moving. Things are being implemented now, ahead of international alignment. Initially in a closed-loop environment specific to that country. I think the next step will be bilateral agreements with countries and their neighbours as we move towards full interoperability later on. A concrete example, and a world first, is coming soon. As part of their migration to an e-passport, which culminated in a presidential launch in January of this year, Tanzania is also going to be the first country in the world to issue a passport on a smartphone. Originally conceived as a convenient way of proving identity in the event of losing your passport while travelling or having your passport stolen, the government very quickly, in looking at the possibilities, saw a number of additional potential benefits. And so where they were initially going to call this the emergency mobile passport, they've decided they're going to call it a mobile electronic passport. So before looking at potential future applications, let's take a quick look excuse me, at the use of the emergency passport, the use case of the emergency passport. This is the case where using a virtual version of your passport on your phone, issued either along with the physical booklet or before travelling to your phone, issued to your phone, you can use that mobile credential as a means of securely establishing your identity in an embassy or a consulate to get a replacement or an emergency travel document issued. We've spoken to a number of governments around the world, a number of government customers, and established that a process that currently can take 1 to 2 days could be cut to a few seconds with this new technology. An embassy or consulate equipped with the right reading software and minimal training of staff can establish both the identity of the person reporting a lost or stolen passport and the existence and validity of that original document in a single, simple step compared to an average of 4 administrative processes today. But the use cases don't stop at the emergency passport or the issuance of a replacement document. Now that your passport is a computer and a communication device, the uses become almost unlimited. There are half a dozen scrolling on the slide here behind me. But one very important one where we're seeing huge interest from governments all over the world is information when travelling. So think of the benefits to travellers and to governments of scenarios like natural disasters, epidemics, terrorist incidents. If your passport application on your phone, when you arrive in a foreign country, could alert your embassy to your arrival, and of course to your departure when your phone disassociates itself from the local network, you open up a whole new world of security and other updates and push notifications. And of course, for the government, knowing who you're not searching for when the worst happens is a huge benefit, because you know that person has already left the country. We don't have time today to go through the many use cases opened up once your travel document moves onto your phone. But needless to say, even ahead of full interoperability, when we will be crossing borders with our phones, and I think all the presentations over the last couple of days show that people believe this really is coming, the list of benefits to both travellers and to issuers is limitless. Thank you for listening, and you can come and see us. I have no idea if we're on booth 7 or, as I was told yesterday, booth 15, but it doesn't matter because I know numbers on the booths, but we're just out there and to the right. I look forward to anybody coming along and having a chat about the possibilities. I can also take questions now. I believe I've got a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rob. Well, to find your booth, I guess we can use Google Map, eh? That should do it. Okay, our next speaker before the coffee break is from De La Rue. His name is Tom Hoyt, and he is Business Development Director, Identity. Is Tom here? Tom is not here. Do I have the right? Okay. Let's check the list. One moment. I have a suggestion. We'll wait a few minutes because our previous speakers have been kind enough to accelerate their presentations just a bit. Tom was supposed to be on at about 10 after 10 instead of 10 to 10. So with your cooperation, if you wouldn't mind remaining in the hall for a few minutes, and then we'll try to track him down. Okay, thank you. So after all this kerfuffle, a man who does not need any introduction anymore. Okay, the floor is yours.
So, I apologize. This is the first conference I've ever been to that was running ahead of schedule. So, I was supposed to be on in about 20 minutes, and then I got word, so I ran over. So I'm really sorry. Also apologies that our global Director of Business Development, Andy Cobb, couldn't be here for this. He is in Montreal. He's just a little under the weather this morning, so he asked me to fill in. I don't think he realized I was going to be late. But my name's Tom Hoyt. I am head of ID regional head of ID for De La Rue in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I'd like to greet the representatives from the Caribbean y también un cordial saludo a los representantes de los países de Latinoamérica. So I'm going to switch back to English before the interpreters get mad at me. So for those of you who don't know De La Rue very well, we're probably best known for printing banknotes and passports. We're the largest printer of both of those, commercial printers of both in the world. But we've been doing identity management systems, developing identity management systems for over 20 years now, and have deployed them in 50 different countries. I'm here to talk about something that one of the key concepts that we're trying to promote here is establishing a secure identity before issuing all sorts of very sophisticated documents, such as the ones that we produce, passports and ID cards, and even digital identity, mobile ID, mobile passport. These are all obviously very important elements, as are biometrics of identity management. But if you haven't established someone's true identity at the start of that process, obviously none of that really means very much. And I think we had a speaker yesterday that addressed some of these points, the importance of evidence of identity. So that's kind of going to be the theme of my presentation here. And so I'll be perfectly honest, I don't completely understand that graphic, but I think the message is clear, which is that we are all on a journey towards e-government. So governments are trying to implement more and more, make more and more services available online to their citizens to basically be more efficient, in some cases save money, but also to provide better service to their citizens. So obviously you're quite familiar with those trends, as well as the fact that there's an increasingly broad range of choices to be made in terms of technology and how to implement them. With that obviously comes some risks, and that's also one of the things we want to talk about here. This presentation, De La Rue is a 200-year-old British company. Perhaps we have a history of innovation. We've actually developed the first ATM, for instance. On our booth, we're showing some new polycarbonate features that are very cool, but we're also known as being somewhat conservative and careful in our approach to things. I think when it comes to identity management, that's very important. We've seen some recent examples of how things can go wrong with large-scale government EID programs, where an entire country's population was exposed to security risks due to not having a solid foundation. We've taken a little bit of a step back here and looked at what do we need to do as we're pushing forward with this new technology, which is increasing risks, to make sure that the underlying foundation is secure. So I'm moving these slides forward. I realize there's hardly any text on the slides, and so you're just probably having to just listen to me talk without the benefit of following along on the slides. But there's definitely with mobile ID and mobile banking, a lot of excitement about these trends. But we've also seen some examples of where those have gone wrong. So I think I talked about that. In terms of establishing a person's identity, I think the key here is to have good data and to have that data easily accessible for the people that are going to need to use it. And so that is something that we have tried to do, and I'm going to talk about a specific project that we are involved in. One of the other issues that we're trying to solve here is being able to better target government services through basically, when you're talking about whether it's health or education or eliminating poverty, better data allows governments to make better decisions and provide better service to their customers. So we are in the process now of developing, rolling out a solution in Antigua and Barbuda. Unfortunately, I know they're here, but they're not here at the moment. And I'm sort of glad because it should say and Barbuda, and we didn't say that in the presentation, in the slide here. We are implementing so the government of Antigua and Barbuda is going to be rolling out a lot of e-government services. They have a plan for this, and they recognize the same problem I was alluding to in terms of really, before they can start offering these services, need to have a better handle on people's identity. So we are working with them to implement a civil registry and vital statistics solution that I'll go into in a little bit more detail, but the idea is that that's going to allow them to more confidently offer these types of services to their citizens because they know who people are, and this is a country too that has a fairly large, in terms of relative to its population, large diaspora. So there's people living in other countries who need to have an identity established to be able to exercise their rights as citizens of the country, whether that's inheritance rights or land property rights and so on. One of the key elements of this project was the involvement of stakeholders from many different organizations, both within and outside of the government. There are actually, I think, 25 identified external stakeholders, including the Passport Office, but as well as the Social Security Service, all sorts of government benefit offices, the High Court, churches involved in notifying the civil registry of marriages, hospitals, midwives who are going to be notifying the civil registry of births and deaths. And so the government there and one of the leading ministries, the sponsors of this project, got all of these, some early input. This has been going on for actually almost 2 years now, getting some early input from all of these different stakeholders, involving them in the process, and also we've been working very closely with them to really understand the specific requirements that they have and be able to implement this CRVS solution. So that solution is based on our core DLR Identify identity management software. It's the same software we use to issue identity documents such as passports and ID cards, but it's obviously been adapted to be a civil registry solution that allows registering of births, deaths, marriages, divorces, adoptions. One of the key aspects is that it allows you to link identities. So obviously with the parents at the time of birth, you're actually linking identities within the system. So it's an identity-centric solution that really, in a sense, becomes a central repository of identity information for the citizens of the country. One of the things that we're implementing as part of this project is a portal for these external stakeholders that they will use to both to notify the civil registry of some of these life events, as well as, and this is probably the more important part for something like the Passport Office, is to be able to verify a person's identity. So having a web portal that with established users that have a specific role and privileges in the system, so people are only seeing the information that is relevant to their agency or relevant to their role, but basically accessing that information to verify a person's identity. Initially, they'll be using photographs as well, but it will become more of a biometric solution as it moves forward. There's already a biometric element to it. It's just going to be part of a later phase. So that, along with the identity linkages, provides a greater, and all the other information that's being put into the system, creates what I would call more of a context around someone's identity, gives you a higher level of confidence as to who that person is, rather than just relying upon an identity document, such as a birth certificate. So that's what we're implementing there. It also includes a mobile solution that can be used by midwives to register births, as well as other use cases there. So, as I stated, we went through a long collaborative process with not only with the sponsoring agencies, but with all of the stakeholders here to understand their requirements. That's the key to really any type of project that involves extending government services into the e-government sphere. I think that a lot of programs have gotten in trouble for not doing that very well. And of course, this whole concept of establishing an identity, evidence of identity, as the key before moving forward with some of these more, these other types of government programs is